So this is going to be a video on project management. I've already done a few on estimating already, and that is one half of what I've been doing for the last 5 years in the civilian world. But 4 years before that, for the Air Force. And this is my experience in project management, starting from the first place that I worked at in these 5 years that I've been in the civilian world as a project manager or an estimator / project manager. And so that first place that I would have worked was for residential. And mostly it was dealing with having people get out to site to take the pictures that we needed to estimate off of, and then after getting the bid to go through, the contract to start, having guys going out to perform the work basically on these residential houses all across the nation that were being remodeled and resold onto the market. It didn't have any field component connected to it, and more than likely, starting directly in project management, you probably will have a field component to what you're doing. And when I say field, I mean going out, checking out the site, making sure people are doing their jobs, making sure things being done efficiently, materials being utilized efficiently, time is being utilized efficiently. And so that first job there, with that project management, as small as it was component to it, I was at $42,500 a year is what I was making there. And that would have been 5 years ago, so 2019, tail end in 2019. The second position that I had would have been working with self-storage, and the component of self-storage there, or the component of project management with them involved for the first time for me, going out into the field, checking field conditions, seeing if things were there the same way that they were on the plans. So we did a lot of remodeling for, let's say, a Walmart, turning it into self-storage, like a Cube Smart. And we would go out to the field at different stages. So there's a few times where I went and we were looking at the building before any renovations had taken place. Other times, whenever the renovations to, add on the self-storage component, all of the doors, all of the siding on the inside, I would go at that point. And when you're starting to get to that point, that's going to get closer to where you have a punch list, which you'll kind of learn about, where you're starting to get into the finishing touches, and you want to make sure that everything is completed. So you make a punch list that keeps track of all of the finishing touches that are needed to turn over the keys basically to the client who commissioned the construction to take place in the first place, which all of that contract side and office work is basically part of what the estimating side of things connects to. So for them, it was making sure their trucks, so they had a factory where they actually created some of the pieces on the inside of their facility, and then those would go out in truckloads, and you'd have to make sure that those truckloads got to where it needed to go in time. As far as field. So we had a senior estimator / project manager who went to different states for the company. I remember one time he checked out self-storage in California for a skyscraper, but it wasn't much travel for us that were mostly focused on the estimating and project managing of material to site from the office, basically. That was that company. After them, it was working mostly with metals on larger size commercial projects. So for them, I started off as a estimator / project manager, but over time was able to progress into a senior project manager role. And most of that was observing and reporting on the field conditions for the project at the time. So I would take pictures, upload it to an app, and the customers would take that and use that as kind of a quality control to see what was going on site, figuring out, had people done what they had been contracted to do, as in the subcontractors, and really just repeating the same thing across multiple states. We'd be out a lot of rooftops, I remember, checking parapets, parapet caps, waterproofing up underneath. Definitely, if you haven't been on a construction site, you'll get used to it. You'll have to figure it out. Definitely, and getting used to a porta potty basically as being your bathroom, and your car being your office, basically, for being able to write things down that are in the field, because you can't just walk off site and hope to remember everything that you had just seen. You have to be able to communicate all of this stuff effectively, and a lot of that takes place in the field. A lot of trailers also you'll see for the field guys that they can go into, get some water, a little bit of air conditioning, use the restroom facilities on the inside, write notes, which is a lot of what we did. And after that company, I'll just move to where we are, or where I'm at now with project management, which is field conditions, site walks, taking pictures, reporting what's going on site. A lot of this work helps the estimators taking the pictures, which a lot of these pictures I'm taking for myself, since I am also on the estimating side as well, things, and not just on the project management side. And keeping track of what areas of a building that you're going to be working in. A lot of the times you're going to get in plans that'll be marked up, and you need to make sure that that matches with the field if you're going to be doing restoration work, because you don't want to get caught in a situation where you're doing more work than you were supposed to be doing or contracted to be doing, which will cost your company money. You want to make sure that you do all the work that you've been contracted to do, so that the customer ends up happy and is not coming back asking for whatever they may ask for, refunds. it's definitely, and I think you'll probably hear this word more often once you actually get into doing the swing of things, going out into the field, talking to people who are actually doing this, is a lot of babysitting. A lot of babysitting for subcontractors, especially working with a GC who's subcontracts out, or even just your own guys that work in your shop. A whole lot of babysitting. Making sure that even superintendents out in the field are doing what they're supposed to be doing, calling people in, getting things done correctly, making sure that things are actually done by code and by certain standards, and not just by whatever these subcontractor guys have just decided to kind of come up with over time. Very important. And also taking into account OSHA, which is one of the standards that you're going to see a lot of, one of the requirements for a lot of these project management jobs. Not necessarily much on the estimating side, even though yes, you will go into the field a lot of the times. Estimators, you're going to have to make sure that people are doing the right thing on site, because safety or an inspector may show up and they could stop the entire site because of some safety violation that you weren't taking into account or paying attention to. So it's definitely a lot of moving parts. As a project manager, you'll definitely be close in with the owner of the company or construction business that you are working for. And the reason why is because you're directly connected to the profits, losses, and margins that are on these projects that this company is running. And you directly affect cash flow, which means that this is a very, very important position for you. And which is why I kind of skipped after the first job and the amount that I was making there, but I'm currently right around 114. But project managers, you're going to be making a good 10,000 above whatever an estimator at a certain given experience level would make. And yeah, that's a healthy amount. I mean, that's right around, let's say, 120 to 130 at 5 years experience, and 140 to 150 at probably 10 years experience. So if you're just learning about either estimating or project management from this video might net you a good $100,000 to $150,000 a year. If you pay attention, if you kind of grasp some of the stuff that I'm saying, if you go back and watch some of the other videos that I've put out on this field, there's a lot of money to be made in construction. It's not just the guy from Dirty Jobs saying it. I'm actually currently in the field with an associate's degree, making a decent living. And according to where you live, and if you like being out in the field here and there, project management isn't necessarily the hardest job in the world. So I'd definitely look into it if you have not. And if you have, maybe you can kind of grab something that I said, or just add on to the experience that you already have from this video and go from there. All right, talk to you guys later.